Greetings, BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business students. I'm Dr. McGrory. In the previous 3 chapters, you learned how to start and build a PowerPoint presentation, add animations, transitions, and even put tables and graphs into your PowerPoint. Now it's time to deliver the presentation. So you need to manage it, have it set up so that your delivery is smooth and people are focused on your content. So let's jump in. As you know, I've already downloaded the start file and the solution file to my computer and put it in a folder named PowerPoint 4. By this time in the semester, I know you do this as second nature. So I've opened my folder. I've got my PowerPoint file here that we're going to work on. Here's the solution file. I've already gotten it open, so let's take a look at it. Well, it looks a little familiar from our last project. This is this R.W. Morris marketing. Now, I do have 10 slides in this presentation. Some of this formatting looks, very familiar. The banner across the, middle of the screen with the title. I see that banner again. It's a little darker now. They've changed some of the formatting. I do see a slide number over here, and I'm going to assume that's a page number. And also when I look down here, I see R.W. Morris Marketing. That looks like it could be a footer, something that we may want on every slide. Okay, so I just advanced to slide 3. I see the R.W. Morris Marketing again. So this is definitely, if I was doing this, something I would put in the footer. We're familiar with this experience and the bullet point there. Several bullet points here. Now, I do see a hyperlink here. See what our clients say. And if I click on this, now I'm on slide 4. It took me to slide 8. So that's very interesting. When you're delivering a presentation, you may want to have some options so that you're flexible. If people say, well, do you have any clients that I can talk to? Or there's a question that arises where you could quickly go to this slide. So very interesting to hyperlink within the PowerPoint. Now, I do recognize, and hopefully you do too, this slide number 8. Of course, it does have the additional page number and the footer. Oops, I'm going back. We recognize slide 7 and even slide 6. I'm just reviewing some of these slides. Let's go all the way down. There's slide number 9, our table. We remember that. And slide 10. Now, I do see kind of lower down here more references available upon request. That's about it. Now, wait a minute, though. I do see a little icon up here, and when I hover my mouse over this small icon in the PDF, there appears to be a note. Give example of marketing campaign for each client. Now, I might want to think about this. Do I want that to be distributed to other people? If I save my PowerPoint as a PDF, do I want them to see that note? So it depends on how you're going to package and deliver this presentation. So let's see, we didn't have any other notes. That was the only one. We have a lot to look at. Let's get started. Well, we know the first step is to open our presentation. And step number 2, enable editing. As I look at this presentation, I'm going to look in this lower left-hand corner. I see that I actually have 12 slides. Now, if you remember, our solution file had 10 slides, so we probably have a little work to do. This does look a little familiar. Now, look at this. Slide number 10 looks a little grayed out, and it has a line through it. And what that tells me is that that is a hidden slide. So if I am on slide 9, let me make sure I have that selected, and I go into my slideshow view. Remember that? Okay, there's client quotes. I'm going to advance to the next slide. And it went to additional clients. So client quotes to additional clients. I also notice I do not see a page number here. I do not see that R.W. Morris Marketing in the bottom. So if I escape to get out of this or otherwise exit the show, well, it didn't show this slide. I went to this additional clients, more references available upon request, but I didn't see this. So this one was hidden, so it skipped right over that. Now, slide number 12, looks like maybe we're going to add something to that. I don't know, it kind of looks a little extra, right? Okay, well, we have some work to do. Let's go to our instructions. We've downloaded the start file. We've downloaded and reviewed the solution file as well as the start file. So let's look at the case. Well, it says in this project we will be working on the structure for the marketing presentation for the R.W. Morris Marketing Agency. We're going to add a footer and we'll rehearse the presentation and practice navigating through the slideshow using the keyboard and mouse. You'll change the handout master and print handouts for your audience. So a couple things, you will not submit any printed documents to me. You will only submit into the automatic grader what you're required to submit. But you need to know how to print things like handouts for your audience. I'm going to tell you some practical advice because this is a very practical, very hands-on course. And that is that when you show up for a presentation, have something printed, something that you can use to show your audience, something that you could hand out, even if it's after the presentation is over. There are always technology issues. There's always something that goes wrong that you can't even imagine. I have been in presentations. One presentation for a corporate training job, the projector went out, didn't work. I had copies of my presentation. I was able to show them, literally to show them. It was a small group, and I even kind of taped them up to the presentation board so that the people could see as I continued to speak. It was very handy. I've had all types of situations where you need that handout. Also, people will tend to ask you for copies of your slides. So it's just handy if you can say, here's a copy of my slide. And you might even say, hey, we're on slide 3 now. Let's take some notes. Make sure that you write this down because that way they're engaged with it. They have something, to touch and be involved in as you present. Okay, what skills are we going to learn? Well, changing the order of slides, and we did that in the previous chapter. Hiding and unhiding slides. It's going to be very familiar to you because in Excel, you learned how to hide columns and how to hide worksheets. Now we're hiding slides. Hyperlinks, we saw how that worked. Now we're going to learn how to do it. It's a skill that carries over to Excel, that carries over to Word, that's even going to be helpful in your emails. How about spell check? You need to be able to do that. And of course, deleting slides. Here's adding footers, adding slide numbers, adding notes. We saw that little note that popped up in the PDF. We're going to rehearse those timings. How many times have you been told, give a speech, make it a 5-minute speech? Here's another practical advice from somebody who gives a lot of presentations. The worst thing a speaker can do is begin by saying, I'm just going to conduct this informally. I didn't really prepare, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today. Oh, no. You know what that means? That means they haven't prepared. So the 5-minute speech is going to be a 30-minute speech because they're going to keep revisiting points or thinking of things that they should have included. You're going to be the same. If you don't rehearse, your speech is going to run over. Maybe it will run very, very short, but the content will not be the quality that you want to present yourself as. You want to say, I've researched, I've done this. So practice. And in this case, you can time it within PowerPoint. Start the slideshow, navigate the slideshow, customize those handouts and print handouts as we discussed. So let's jump in. We know we did step number 1. We opened the presentation and we enabled editing. On to step 3. Change the order of the slides. Well, they simply tell us to select slide 9 and to drag it up until it is above this one that says R.W. Morris Marketing Belief System. So in other words, we're going to make slide 9 become slide 8. So let's do that. I'm going back to PowerPoint. They're telling me to go to slide 9. in my normal view. Now, I can very quickly make this change, which I'm going to do. I'm just going to drag slide number 9 up 1. Make sure that you get it up high enough so that now that slide is slide number 8. If you don't drag high enough, it'll go right back to being slide number 9. Or if you drag too high, it might become slide number 7. So verify that. For that reason, sometimes when I'm at the point where I think I've got this presentation, but maybe I'm just, need to kind of organize the outline a little bit, that's when I would go to slide sorter view. This is a little easier to drag and drop. The slides are a little larger. You can see the content a little more clearly. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you can do this either in the normal view or in the slide sorter view. So let's pop the instructions back up. We've finished step 3. On to step number 4. We're going to unhide slide 10. We saw that it was hidden. Now we're going to unhide it, and we're going to click the slideshow tab. It says to unhide. Why would we go through all those steps? When you are hiding and unhiding things in Microsoft Excel, did you have to go through those menus, and do you remember what those menus are right now? Or could you get a context-sensitive menu that might give you that option to hide and unhide? Let's see. I'm just going to pop the PowerPoint slide right back open. We saw that slide number 10 was hidden. Right-click on that slide, and now we're simply going to choose Unhide. Notice that it's not grayed out anymore. It's in full color. And that little slash through the number is gone. So now it's part of our presentation. If we're not sure, we can click slide number 9. We can go to slideshow. And there's our additional client list. No longer hidden. Close that. And let's go back to our instructions. See, we made those 2 steps very easy by simply right-clicking. Step number 5, add a hyperlink to slides. We saw that in the solution file. We're going to do this on slide 4. We're going to click at the end of the second bullet, press the space bar. We're going to insert it. We're going to go to the Insert tab. Okay, once again, Insert tab, Links group. We're going to use a keyboard shortcut to replace these steps. The keyboard shortcut to insert a hyperlink is Control K. Think link, link, Control K. Very handy. You're going to use it in emails. You're going to use it in Word documents. You're going to use it in Excel and definitely in PowerPoint. Control K. It's a great tool. So we're going to do that, and what we're going to do is link from slide 4 to slide 8 when they click on this text, and we saw this in the solution file. See what our clients say inside parentheses here. So let's do that. I'm just going to move these instructions this time over there, and let's go to slide 4. Make that active. They said to click at the end of the second bullet. You see my insertion point flashing there. Press the space bar 1 time. Now at this point, I am going to press Control K. When I do this, they want me to navigate to slide number 8. But by default, it's looking for a web address. And if I had one, I would just paste it in here. I could copy and paste the web address. But I want to link to a place in this document. You can do this in Microsoft Word. When you have those reports and you need to move quickly between pages, you can do this, and guess what? It's the headings. The headings are easy hyperlinks. Well, here we see in PowerPoint that we can just pick client quotes. There's slide number 8 right there. Now, before I click OK, they want us to change the default text. Notice it's the name of the slide, client quotes. But we're going to select that. We're going to type, open parenthesis, see what our clients say. and we're going to close the parenthesis. So whatever text I have typed on this text to display is going to display instead of any hyperlink. That's true whether it's a web address or whether it's a place in the document. Click OK. Oops, I'm getting a little navigation here. It says easy linking, drag a slide onto the canvas to create a slide zoom. Well, I'm going to click, got it. So let's stay on task here. We've got our hyperlink. We could test that hyperlink. Why don't we save? We haven't saved yet. Save that. Go into slideshow view. And maybe we can click, see what our clients say. And sure enough, it took us to that slide. Let's cancel or exit our show, and let's go back to the instructions. We made that easy, didn't we? Step number 5, we learned that keyboard shortcut Control-K. On to step number 6. We're going to delete a slide, specifically that extra slide 12. Do you remember that? It was all the way at the bottom of the presentation. Well, that's an easy enough step. So I'm just going to go all the way down here and right-click. Isn't that just the fast way to do this? There's nothing on that slide. It might have been inserted by accident. We just don't need that space anymore. So right-click, delete slide. So now I'm down to 11 slides. Let's save that. Step number 6 is completed. On to step 7. Check the presentation for spelling errors. There's nothing worse than a spelling error in your slide deck. It's up there on a projector screen for everybody to see. I was at a presentation very recently and sitting at a table full of people, and the presenter had many spelling errors in his presentation. And it was a great distraction to the message he was trying to deliver. So don't do that. You'd be surprised how people will not hear anything else. They only see the spelling error. So don't do that. So we're going to check that. They tell us to go to the review tab. They're telling us the spelling errors here. We're going to change business to business. Organization, which this is a different English spelling, and we're going to change it to our spelling. And association. And then they do say that we might have one more error, but if so, to ignore that. We should get a message box saying that we're at the end. So let's move those out of the way. And let's check for errors. Now, I'm on slide 11. What did we learn even in Microsoft Word, in Excel? When we check for errors, it's going to start from wherever we are and continue down the document by default. I'm on slide 11. I'm going to press Control Home to very quickly. Now, I had my thumbnail selected. That lets me very quickly move to slide number 1. And they're telling me this is a review activity, right? When we're reviewing our document, checking it. So come to the review ribbon over here on the far side. ABC check, that means spelling. Check spelling. I have this panel over here on the side. It's already identified, look over here on the slide, business is misspelled. And they're suggesting, here's the correct word, business. Sometimes it'll have multiple selections. If so, you pick the word that is the one you want. Change. It moved on and it found organization. And we want to use our American English spelling for that. Change. And then here's association. This should be our last change. Okay, so it's going to this one, but they said ignore, just ignore any other changes. So we're really kind of at the end. I guess we could tell it to resume if we wanted to, but it's sticking with that word. They told us to ignore, so I'm going to stop at that point because I think that's where they told us to only make those 3 corrections. So save that, and let's move this back. So we navigated to slide 1. We went to review. We did the spell check. We changed these 3 words. And it said, further errors, that we can ignore those. On to step 8. Add a footer to the presentation. So we're going to do this through the Insert tab, and we're going to see this text group header and footer, and we're going to add the text R.W. Morris Marketing. Remember, we saw that in the solution file. Now they are also telling us, though, don't display that on the very first slide. Remember, in Word, sometimes we wanted the title page or the first page of our document to look a little different. Same thing here. We want that title slide to say R.W. Morris Marketing, but we're doing that as the title. We're not doing that as a footer. And then we're going to apply that to all, not slide 1, but we are going to apply it to all. So let's do that. So I'm on slide 5, and I think we can stay there. Let's go to the, there it goes, Insert tab. And as I go across, gosh, we've explored so many things in this class. We're all the way over here into this text group. Now, you're familiar with word art and, all types of things, but here we see header and footer. A little different than, for example, Excel, isn't it? Right, so header, footer. And in PowerPoint, you open this header, footer dialog box, and there's 2 parts to it. This says slide. I want this header or footer to be on the slide. This says I want this header and footer to be on the notes or on the handouts that I give to the audience. PowerPoint is all about viewing the data from a variety of perspectives. For example, when we're in the normal view, we see the slide over here, but we see a different view of those same slides over here in the thumbnails. When we see the slide sorter view, we see the slides in a different view. When we're in the presentation view, we see the slideshow view of that. So all of this is different, and the handouts that we can print are a separate view. So do we want a header and footer on those? Well, we're not dealing with that right now. Right now we're on the slide, but you want to know it's all under the same header and footer button. So what did they ask us to do? They asked us to select this footer button, and in that box, when it's asking us what do we want to put in the footer, R.W. Morris Marketing. Here's that box where they said don't show it on the title slide. And we're going to apply to all. I see it down here in the lower corner. And if I go all the way up, I can kind of scan in my thumbnail views and see that something is there. Here's my first title slide. I don't see it there, and that's good. I go to slide 2. Here it is. If I click on it, what did PowerPoint do? It added a new container. It added an object, a text box. So it located that text box in the exact same place on every page. So that's all that is. I could move that, realign it if I needed to do that. It's just another text box on my slide. Save that. We're completing step number 8. On to step 9. Now we're going to add those slide numbers to the presentation. So we're going to go back to that Insert tab. This time we're just going to check the box for slide number and apply to all. Now you may be wondering, how does it know to put the slide number, for example, in this box? In this case, this is a template. So there are some things behind the scenes we can look at in a moment that govern where that slide number is going to go by default. If you're not in this template, if you just opened a blank PowerPoint, it tends to put the slide number in the lower right corner. So let's back on our insert ribbon, all the way across again, header, footer. This time we're going to select slide number. Now, I don't know, did you see the little preview over here? If I uncheck this, and now I'm going to check it again, you see it's darker because it's trying to show us this is where that's going to go. I'm going to apply to all. There's our slide number. So save that. Now, again, if you're wondering, how did it know? Well, I want you to take a moment and click on View. We're going to go to View in a moment for something else, but go to View. And as you look across, I want you to notice this little section here that says Master Views. What are Master Views? Master Views are the templates that govern every new slide, or existing slide in this case, of your presentation. how does PowerPoint know that this particular layout, do you remember layouts? We went to Home and we could adjust the layout. How does it know that these layouts are supposed to have this dark bar going across it? How does it know it's supposed to have this kind of turquoise box in the right corner? Well, that's because, going back to the view ribbon, the slide master tells it. Well, there are three types of slide masters because there are three different views that we can control: the slide itself, the handouts, or the notes. Let's look at Slide Master. Do you see this template? It's showing here's where the page number is going to go. Here's where this black bar is, and here's where the text is going to go. And absolutely, I could select this, and I could start to change the font. I could select this box and change the color. Maybe I could change the color of this box. These are things that we can't select on our regular slide because they're part of the template. They're kind of underneath the slide. They affect the font and the coloring. I wanted to point that out, a little beyond the scope of this chapter, but now you know it's there, so it opens that door to possibilities for you. Let's get back to our instructions. We finished step 9. We added a slide number. On to step 10. We're going to add notes. Remember, we saw that note pop up. We're going to slide 2 for this. We're going to click the Notes button on the status bar, and we're going to type this: give examples from Tub Toys and Head Over Heels Spa. Okay, let me move these out of the way. Let me go back to slide 2. Now, where can I put the notes? Because I don't see any place in my normal view to add the notes. Well, a couple ways you can approach this. Do you see this Notes button down here in the status bar? If I click that, it pops open this area here where it says click to add notes. If I move my mouse up ever so slightly, I'm over the border between the slide and this notes area. And I can click and I can drag and I can make this notes area as big or as small as I need it to be. What this notes area is for really is dual purpose. First of all, they said we could type give examples from Tub Toys Head Over Heels. So I'm going to pretend to type this right here, type it very quickly. And what that would do is it would remind me I'm in the middle of my speech. Now, I don't want this to appear on the screen when I'm giving my speech. So what I would do is I would print speaker notes. What are speaker notes? I would simply go to File, Print, and in this print dialog box, instead of saying full page slides, I would click this drop-down box and look at this Notes Pages. Click on that. This is a picture of my slide, and this is what I want to say. What I can do is I can have that piece of paper in front of me. I can see my slide. This prompt is supposed to be spoken about when I'm on slide 2. Have you ever seen presentations where people do this the whole time? Okay, well, as you can see on, oh, that's terrible, right? I'm not going to connect with you. I'm not going to connect with your content unless you're looking at me. So I want to have that paper right in front of me so that I can look up and say, now I might have to do this, and there's nothing wrong with this. Yes, I'm confirming I'm on slide 2. Nothing wrong at all with that. Did the slide change? Yes, it did, right? Takes this long. It's different to do this than it is to do this, right? I don't want to present with the back of my head the whole time to my audience. You're going to lose your audience. So you connect with them, you have your speaker notes, and you read them. And they're aligned with your, it's like having an index card, except that now it's paired with the slide. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's one way to do that with the speaker notes. Now, I said this is dual purpose because sometimes what we do is we email our PowerPoint slides to our audience. If we want to do that, I would not put secret comments in here. I would instead say something related to this, our goal. Maybe I could put a link to our corporate webpage with our mission statement and our vision statement. Maybe I type a little bit more detail in this section of the notes so that if somebody is reading this as a handout, they are getting the full speech without me delivering the full speech. So think of it in two ways. Am I going to distribute this to my client? If so, what I type in the notes area is going to be with my client in mind. They're reading this. Or is this something I'm just using for my presentation? For example, I know a very successful corporate trainer, and for years, the very first note that she had on her PowerPoint slides was smile. Because when you get up and you look out at your audience, you need to remember to smile. So she would just put herself a little note to that effect. Okay, let's save that. That is speaker notes. Let's go back to our instructions. We added that to slide 2. On to step 11. Use PowerPoint's Rehearse timing feature. So we're going to go to this slideshow ribbon, and what you're going to see is how these rehearse timings can be used. When the first slide appears, it says begin rehearsing your presentation. Click the pause button if you want to stop the timer, click next, and go on. Now it does say at the end of the presentation you will be asked if you want to keep the timing as part of your slideshow, and they say no. So make sure you say no, otherwise when you upload it to the automatic grader, it might mark off points because it's not expecting those times to be there. All right, let's do that. I'm going to move those instructions out of the way. Up here, they want us to go to the slideshow. All types of things in here. This is rehearse timings. This is where we're coming to, but look at this. Present in Teams. Custom slideshow. Goodness, there's going to be many settings in here. Rehearse with a coach. You might want to investigate that. Set up your slideshow, hide slides, rehearse time, all types of things. Play narration. Use the timings. Show this when you run or you record your show. Let me give you some ideas. You run a business. You are an entrepreneur. You go to a trade show. You want to attract customers. So you make a slideshow where you have spoken into the microphone, you've rehearsed it, you've recorded it, and the slides advance automatically based on the timing that you put in there, and the person is hearing your voice as pictures of your products are being shown. You could have music playing as pictures of the different dishes that you're going to offer at your restaurant are displayed. So this could be on a loop. All types of things that you can do with this recorded and automated and timed feature of your show. So I'm going to get back to instructions. Let's click Rehearse Timing. I'm on my first slide. Notice up here at the top there are 2 times. One of them is for the slide, one of them is for the overall show. So here I am on my title slide. I introduce myself, I introduce the other people in my panel, and then I'm going to click to go to slide number 2. Now you can see the clock is started over for this particular slide, but the time is being added to my overall show. Couple features while we're rehearsing this. I have down here some tools. I have a little pen. Did you see that? And so what I can do, if somebody, asks me something or if I want to add emphasis, is I could use my pen to draw something on my slide. I can come back to this and say, oh, I didn't want that. I want to use an eraser, to erase that. So I do have a few tools, especially in a virtual environment. This can be helpful. I will say if you are giving a live presentation, if you are the presenter as well as the technology person, you're controlling the PowerPoint and you're talking, do not take away from your presentation by using this stuff. If you are speaking and somebody else is controlling the technology, then, or if you're the person controlling the technology, as the speaker is talking, you may be able to do something like that. Okay, see how these tools are used? But do not have a public audience where you're speaking to them and go through this whole thing of wait, let me see if I can find, okay, I got to find, okay, don't do that. Instead, you want to focus on your presentation. Okay, now I don't want this highlighter anymore. I want to go back to my arrow, so I need to click on the highlighter again to turn it off. Let's go forward. Okay, so you saw I spent a lot of time on that last slide. I do have a video camera down here as well. There might be some things here. I have some subtitles. I can turn on subtitles as I go. Now here's our, see what our clients say. I can click on that. We did test that though, so we know it works. So that I get some times on each of my slides, I'm just going to continue sequentially. Maybe I talk a long time about my education, Washington, da-da. Oh, we have to talk about this because remember, we analyze, we design, we implement. Powerful. And there's our client quotes. We talk about our belief system. And there we are. We're at the end of our show. Now, I'm going to click. Oops, I'm trying to get to the end. And here's the prompt. And it says, do you want to save the new slide timings? And your instructions very clearly say, let me go back to this, click no. That's what your instructions say. But you know me. I'm going to do a little demonstration here. For a moment, I'm going to click yes, but I'm going to close without saving it and reopen. Okay? So I'm going to say yes because I want you to see where you see these times. I'm going to change to slide sorter view. And look underneath my slides. This is how much time I spent on each slide, so I can understand the overall time of my presentation. If my presentation is a little bit too long, I might want to look at slide 2 because I spent a lot of time on slide 2. If I need to spend that time on slide 2, then I need to cut some time somewhere else in my presentation. But this is a pretty good way to navigate this. So just to add a little bit more to this, I see all the times. What I can do is I can now run this show from the beginning. And remember, I had 17 seconds on this very first slide. So this should, after 17 seconds, advance. Now, if you are doing an automated show that's kind of running by itself, that's great. Otherwise, you need to be very, very well practiced because your slides could take off without you. Or, in the case of slide number 2, remember that I was on this slide for over a minute? I might be stuck sitting here waiting, and I might have to manually advance this anyway. So that's a little how these slide timings work. One other thing I want to show you, please explore this. Set up show. Look at the options you have. Presented by a speaker, full screen. Browsed by an individual, you want it in a window. Browsed at a kiosk. In other words, you just have your laptop sitting there and people look at it as they go by. So you don't want the window or any controls. You want it full screen. Now look at this. Loop continuously. You've got maybe some music going. You've got pictures of a product that you sell. Could be a handcrafted product. Menu items, quilts that you've made, woodworking that you've done. A show without narration. Maybe you have recorded your voice, maybe not. So show with or without animations, and you learned what animations are. You can even look at that. Set your default pen colors for that. Which slides do you want to show? All of them? Do you want to use the timings if they're present? Well, probably. And you're using the presenter mode here. Or do you want to just advance these slides manually? So you could decide. If I click OK, well, I don't want to save any of these, and I don't want to have to, recreate these timings. Notice here that this checkbox for use timings, when I said to go manually, it deselected that box. Also, I really have to point out subtitles. This is a really great tool for your audiences. This way, maybe you have somebody who is doing sign language to interpret that, but how about you instead, or in addition, use these subtitles so that the person is with you every step along the way in that presentation. Well, I said I was going to close this without saving it. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to open it right back up. And let me go back to my slide sorter view. You see the timings are gone. So, okay. The last thing that we did is on slide number 2, we added that note, and so that's still there. So I'm right back where I started from. We practiced our presentation and we learned along the way. I hope you're getting some ideas about how powerful PowerPoint can be. Now it says start the slideshow from the beginning and navigate through the presentation using the mouse. Well, you know how to do that. I've shown that many times throughout this. From the beginning, remember you can use that F5 key. They did want you to learn to jump to certain slides, even if there's not a hyperlink. So if I go back to PowerPoint and I go into my slideshow, if I am very well practiced in my presentation and someone asks me a question and I say, oh, I know that's on this slide, that's, we're not going to have time to get to because we've talked too much, I'm going to click on that button. Did you see that? Then I can pick a slide. Oh, here we are on slide 10. And then people are talking and they say, no, see the button? I need to go to slide 7. So this button will help you go directly to the slide that you need to go to, even if you don't have a hyperlink to it. Awesome. Let's go back to our instructions. So we finished step number 12. Yeah, we looked at different options and we ended the show. They want us to hide slide number 11. Well, you know how we're going to do that. I'm just going to bring this forward, go down to slide 11, right click, and hide the slide. Now I have 10 slides. So if I were to print this to a PDF file, only these 10 slides would print because we've hidden this one. We don't want it to be part of any printout. Back to the instructions. Step 14, start the slideshow from the current slide and navigate through the presentation using the keyboard. So which keys can you use? The Enter key, the arrow keys, the space bar, right? How do you start from the current slide? You have to use the slideshow button, right? Or go to your slideshow ribbon. Don't use F5 because F5 always starts the show from the very first slide. It says to go to the previous slide. Remember we talked about this in the previous chapter. Backspace or the arrow key. Jump to a specific slide. Escape will always exit the presentation. So we've talked about that a lot, so I hope that you are comfortable with that. Now, look at this, we're going to go into those views, and specifically we're going to look at the Handout Master. So we looked at the Slide Master, now we're looking at Handout Masters. So what do we want to do? Well, in that master group, we just basically want to brand the handout so that it always has this on it. R.W. Morris Marketing Presentation. So let's move this out of the way. Go to our view, and remember this is in our Master Views group. We previously looked at Slide Master. Now we're looking at Handout Master. So here is what this particular Handout Master looks like, and they want us to click here in the header and type R.W. Morris Marketing Presentation. Now, the headers, they're very different, aren't they, between Word, Excel, and now PowerPoint. So you can see, how you use this. Here's the header, here's the footer. So some of the concepts are the same, but the mechanics are a little different. Close the Slide Master. Now, what did we do? Because where does it say R.W. Morris Marketing Presentation? It's not this footer. Well, if I go back to File and Print And we saw, print the whole full slide for one page. I don't want to do that. We saw the speaker notes. We could print just an outline. That's great for teamworks and sometimes even to prompt you as the speaker. Look at these handouts. I can print just one slide per page. I could print 2 slides per page. My favorite, and most people's favorite, is 3 slides per page. First of all, when you start adding a lot more slides to the page, look at 9. I can't even see. What is the person going to be able to see on that when they have little bitty images of that? In fact, let me go to horizontal, 9 slides horizontal. Okay, notice I'm on page 2. This is slides 10 and 11. I'm going to go back one page. Well, I guess I can see a little bit. You can see it's telling me the slide numbers. But I don't know. I mean, there's room for notes. I would just have to scribble on this. And it is horizontal. Now, in comparison, I could do 9 slides vertical. See how it's 1, 2, 3 now? Back up to the top, 4, 5, 6. Gets a little confusing sometimes. Very small slides. But the favorite view is 3 slides. When you choose 3 slides, you automatically get these lines out to the side. It's kind of like ruled paper so that people can take notes. And in this way, you pass out the packet of of your slides. They can pretty much see what's written on your slides. I mean, you don't want to put too much content because it starts to get small. But they can write to the side something important. You say, listen, the thing that you want to remember about why our W. Morris marketing is low price, highest quality, right? And they can write that over to the side. So that is your slide master. Now, what I am finding it difficult to see, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Remember that footer? Oh, here it is. There's our, I'm sorry, it wasn't a footer, it was a header. Here's our header, R.W. Morris Marketing Presentation. We can still see on the slide itself our footer. That's what I was thinking. But at the top, we have the date and we have the header that we added. Excellent. That was step 15, and you're learning while you're earning points. Now, it says print the handouts, click the File tab to print. We have done this for several things. We looked at the 3 slides, so we did that step. And it says click the Print button, but it does say to talk to your instructor. If you want to print the slides for your personal viewing so that you can see that, that's fantastic. I do not need them. Do not submit them to me. Do not email them to me. That is for your practice. So I'm going to click that. And guess where we are? We're at the final step of Chapter 4 PowerPoint. So you have learned a lot, and I know you're going to do well. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to close. Remember, close completely out of PowerPoint. I'm going to resize my window just a little bit so that as I come back to these instructions, Control Home to get to the top of the page, and we've downloaded, we've done the work, it's time to upload. I am ready, and I'm hoping I didn't make a mistake when I was talking. Oh, look at that, we're ending PowerPoint strong. PowerPoint Chapter 4. All right, thank you, folks. Don't forget to keep looking forward for your end of semester activities tests. Okay, so make sure you're following instructions and adhering to deadlines. Thank you, folks. It's been a pleasure.